Riddance of 14 Unwholesome Factors. According to the Abhidharma, there are 14 unwholesome factors that practitioners should always observe. Practitioners should always remember that if we know how to concentrate on thoughts with right understanding and right behavior, the effects that the mind can produce are immense and profound too. The first unwholesome mind is the mind of ignorance. Delusion or moha is a synonym for avidya, ignorance. Its characteristic is mental blindness, or unknowing. Its function is non-penetration, or concealment of the real nature of the object. It is manifested as the absence of right understanding, or as mental darkness. Its proximate cause is unwise attention. It should be seen as the root of all that is unwholesome. Ignorance is not seeing things as they really are. It is failing to understand the truth about life. As long as we have not developed our minds to obtain wisdom, we remain ignorant of the true nature of things. The second unwholesome mind is the mind of shamelessness. Shamelessness is the absence of disgust at bodily and verbal misconduct. Practitioners should control their body, speech, mind, not letting them go at will. The third unwholesome mind is the mind of fearlessness, of wrongdoing. Moral recklessness is the absence of dread on account of bodily and verbal misconduct. This happens due to lack of respect for self and others. The fourth unwholesome mind is the mind of restlessness. It has the characteristic of disquietude, like water whipped up by the wind. Its function is to make the mind unsteady, as wind makes the banner ripple. It is manifested as turmoil. Its proximate cause is unwise attention to mental disquiet. The fifth unwholesome mind is the mind of greed. Greed, the first unwholesome root, covers all degrees of selfish desire, longing, attachment, and clinging. Its characteristic is grasping an object. Its function is sticking, as meat sticks to a hot pan. It is manifested as not giving up. Its proximate cause is seeing enjoyment in things that lead to bondage. The sixth unwholesome mind is the mind of wrong view, perverted wrong views or opinions, not consistent with the Dharma, one of the 5 heterodox opinions and 10 evils. This view arises from a misconception of the real characteristic of existence. There were at least 62 heretical views, views of the externalist, or non-Buddhist views in the Buddha's time. Buddhism emphasizes on theory of causation. Understanding the theory of causation means to solve most of the question of the causes of sufferings and afflictions. Not understanding, or refuse of understanding, of the theory of causation means a kind of wrong view in Buddhism. According to the Buddha, sentient beings suffer from sufferings and afflictions because of desires, aversions, and delusion, and the causes of these harmful actions are not only from ignorance, but also from wrong views. False view means seeing wrongly. Its characteristic is unwise or unjustified interpretation or belief. Its function is to preassume. It is manifested as a wrong interpretation or belief. Its proximate cause is unwillingness to see the noble ones. Practitioners should always remember that perverted wrong views or opinions, or not consistent with the Dharma, is one of the 5 heterodox opinions and 10 evils. This view arises from a misconception of the real characteristic of existence. Buddhism emphasizes on theory of causation. Understanding the theory of causation means to solve most of the question of the causes of sufferings and afflictions. Not understanding, or refuse of understanding of the theory of causation means a kind of wrong view in Buddhism. According to the Buddha, sentient beings suffer from sufferings and afflictions because of desires, aversions, and delusion, and the causes of these harmful actions are not only from ignorance, but also from wrong views. The seventh unwholesome mind is the mind of pride. Conceit has the characteristic of haughtiness. Its function is self-exaltation. It is manifested as vainglory. Its proximate cause is greed. Disassociated from views, it should be regarded as madness. The eighth unwholesome mind is the mind of ill will. Doso, the second unwholesome root, comprises all kinds and degrees of aversion, ill will, anger, irritation, annoyance, and animosity. Its characteristic is ferocity. Its function is to spread or burn up its own support, the mind and body in which it arises. It is manifested as persecuting, and its proximate cause is a ground for annoyance. It is unwise or unsystematic attention that brings about ill will, which when not checked propagates itself, saps the mind and clouds the vision. It distorts the entire mind and its properties, and thus hinders awakening to truth, and blocks the path to freedom. Lust and ill will based on ignorance not only hamper mental growth, but act as the root cause of strife and dissension between man and nation and antion. Hatred narrows down our path of cultivation and closes the door of emancipation, while the mind of loving kindness broadens the path of cultivation and opens the door of liberation for us. Hatred brings remorse. Loving kindness brings peace. Hatred agitates. Loving kindness quietens, still, and calm, and so on and so on. Practitioners should always remember that there is no ill luck worse than hatred, and the mind of loving kindness is not only the best antidote for anger in ourselves, but it is also the best medicine for those who are angry with us. Practitioners should always develop the mind of loving kindness through thinking out the evils of hate and the advantages of non-hate. The ninth unwholesome mind is the mind of envy. Envy has the characteristic of being jealous of others' success. Its function is to be dissatisfied with others' success. It is manifested as aversion towards that. Its proximate cause is others' success. Envy is a vicious habit shared by almost everybody in the society. People with the mind of envy cannot feel happy when others are progressing, but they rejoice over the failures and misfortunes of others. Practitioners should always meditate and contemplate on the impermanence of all things, and contemplate on the vicissitudes of life. Once we can see the impermanence and emptiness of all things, and understand the vicissitudes of life, we have nothing to attach. Thus we can put an end to the mind of envy. On the contrary, we can cultivate the virtue of appreciating others' happiness, welfare and progress. When we learn to rejoice the joy of others, our hearts get purified, serene and lofty. The 10th unwholesome mind is the mind of avarice. The characteristic of avarice, or stinginess, is concealing one's own success when it has been or can be obtained. Its function is not to bear sharing these with others. It is manifested as shrinking away from sharing, and as meanness or sour feeling. Its proximate cause is one's own success. Practitioners should always remember that giving is one of the 10 weapons of enlightening beings, destroying all stinginess. Enlightening beings who abide by these can annihilate the afflictions, bondage, and compulsion accumulated by all sentient beings in the long night of ignorance. The 11th unwholesome mind is the mind of worry. Worry or remorse after having done wrong. Its characteristic is subsequent regret. Its function is to sorrow over what has or what has not been done. It is manifested as remorse. Practitioners should always remember that worries and miseries are twin evils that go hand in hand. They coexist in this world. If you feel worried, you are miserable, and vice versa. When you are miserable, you are worried. Devout Buddhists should always remember that worries are made by our own minds, and by nothing else we create them in our own minds, for we fail to understand the danger of attachment and egoistic feelings. To be able to overcome these problems, we must try to contemplate and to train our minds carefully, because an untrained mind is the main cause of all the problems, including worries and miseries. The most important fact is that we should always have a smile, for ourselves as well as for others, in any circumstances. The Buddha taught, worries only arise in the fool, not in the wise. Worries and miseries are nothing but states of mind. Negative thoughts produce worries and miseries, while positive thoughts produce happiness and peace. The 12th unwholesome mind is the mind of sloth. Sloth is sluggishness, or dullness of mind. Its characteristic is lack of driving power. Its function is to dispel energy. It is manifested as the sinking of the mind. Its proximate cause is unwise attention to boredom, drowsiness. Sloth is identified as sickness of consciousness, or siddhajalana. According to most Venerable Payadasi, in the Buddha's ancient path, Thina, or Middha is sloth, or morbid state of the mind, and mental properties. It is not, as some are inclined to think, sluggishness of the body. For even the arhats, the perfect ones, who are free from this ill also experience bodily fatigue. This sloth and torpor, like butter too stiff to spread, make the mind rigid and inert, and thus lessen the practitioner's enthusiasm and earnestness from meditation, so that he becomes mentally sick and lazy. Laxity leads to greater slackness, until finally there arises a state of callous indifference. The 13th unwholesome mind is the mind of torpor. Torpor is the morbid state of the mental factors. Its characteristic is unwieldiness. Its function is to smother. It is manifested as drooping, or as nodding and sleepiness. Sloth and torpor always occur in conjunction, and are opposed to energy. Torpor is identified as sickness of the mental factors, or kaya-jalana. When practicing meditation, sometimes cultivators drift into a dark, heavy mental state, akin to sleep. This is the delusive obstruction of drowsiness. Drowsiness, or sloth, as a hindrance to progress, to fulfill good deeds. The 14th unwholesome mind is the mind of doubt. Doubt signifies spiritual doubt. From a Buddhist perspective, the inability to place confidence in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and the training. Doubting is natural. Everyone starts with doubts. We can learn a great deal from them. What is important is that we do not identify with our doubts. That is, do not get caught up in them, letting our minds spin in endless circles. Instead, utilizing meditation and contemplation to watch the whole process of doubting, of wondering. See who it is that doubts. See how doubts come and go. Then we will no longer be victimized by our doubts. We will step outside of them, and our mind will be quiet. We can see how all things come and go. Let go of our doubts, and simply watch. This is how to end doubting. Practitioners should always remember that our mind tremendously and profoundly influences and affects the body. If we allow it to function freely to external conditions, it can cause unmeasurable disasters. The path of cultivation of any Buddhist is a war between wholesome and unwholesome mental states. And most of the time, unwholesome mental factors keep attacking any devout Buddhists. Buddhist teaching, Buddhism, is easy to say, but not easy to do or to practice. However, when we really want to cultivate, we have no other choice but trying to let go all unwholesome factors. For being able to do this also means that we have already pushed away great obstacles on our own path of cultivation.